Welcome back to Formula One News. If you want to get informed of every F1, soccer, any sport related content, make sure to hit the subscribe button. But just to get on with this, Ferrari, Charles Leclerc finished the fastest in the final day of the Bahrain testing, and Ferrari leave happy. After Bahrain, correlation looks good. They're satisfied with the car's reliability. Also rumored like Mercedes, also looking good, but always take these with a grain of salt. Cars, rumored to be sandbagging. A lot of cars are not up to pace, might be a few seconds behind the actual pace that they should be, such as Aston Martin. But I'll believe everything I see until Q3 of qualifying in Australia. That's when you'll see whatever saying is right. Mercedes are understood to have significantly turned down their engine testing, but Ferrari and Red Bull have also did the same. Like I said, until you see Q3 in Australia, you got to take all of these with a grain of salt. You don't know, what teams are saying, how they're performing their cars, how they're running during testing. So always take it with a grain of salt. Here, the SF26 shows strong signs of under braking and on the corner entry. You have Charles and Hamilton in interviews looking, a bit, his car is probably 100% better from last season thanks to new regulations, but for the rest of the grid, it's not, so it's a huge complicated thing with brand new things being added on into the cars and also teams dropping. It's a whole debacle that's going on there. Andrea Stella, who is in McLaren, has stated that the Mercedes Ferrari are heading favorites into Melbourne. He states that this test is confirmed that Ferrari and Mercedes are the teams to beat. As McLaren, we're not far off. It's good to see that we're in a leading group, but those two look like they have the slight of edge. And yeah, you see it from a couple weeks now that McLaren aren't the top favorites. Obviously, they'll still be a top team going into the season, but they're not going to be that back-to-back world championship car that they had for the past couple years, but. Anything can happen. You can. Sure, the F1 it matters how you start, obviously, but the longer the season is, that's where you gotta. You still have time to work on your car. Still try to be the fastest car. Just because you have the fastest right now doesn't mean you're gonna have the fastest by the end of the season. So that's what really matters there. Now this, the whole debacle of the new system that they have there of going a whole 180 degree of the wing. Like Sarah states that we saw the opportunity to maximize the straight line speed and to make better use of the airflow, and we took it. And it's an interesting thing. Obviously with DRS, you only turns at 90 degrees, not a whole 180, but if it's better for the car, faster, that's what you need, obviously. Whole new regulations are bringing in a bunch of new inventions, even with the exhaust that they have there. There's a little video of describing the DRS system. But here with the exhaust that's supposed to help, but Sarah states that my exhaust is not like that. Rather, it's the team's exhaust. I consider myself only the last link in the chain. He says that obviously with you see these these cars that they can't even run properly, and their batteries and everything else going on. A lot of problems coming into testing. Loads of problems. You can't even have a start finish properly because of all new things that are coming in and teams not having the cars prepared to an extent. There's a lot of uncertainty about Aston Martin this season. Aston Martin are not in a good place for the past couple days or weeks. You can see that Adrian Newey and everyone there is stressing because they're saying that this Aston Martin is lacking behind pace. The expectation is Aston Martin will be towards the back in Australia. The question is, are they going to even start in Australia? You still need, to even have your car on the line. That's going to be huge debacle there. But we'll see what there. Aston Martin in crisis. Lance Stroll issues blunt demand to Honda. We need more power now. The AMR 26 suffered severe reliability issues in testing, lagging over 4 seconds off pace, which is huge. You can't have that, especially. And also with the 107 rule, you need to be in a certain, percentage to even start an F1 race, to even have your car on the grid. If it's not, you're not going to race. This really hasn't been a problem. Only thing you can say about this is when cars crash and qualifying never starts. But besides that, you never really see something like this. But if they're not in the 107%, if they're not in that certain percentage, they're not going to start a race at Aston Martin, so I don't think that's going to be a real issue for them. Um, we'll see what they let's see until, like I said, until qualifying in in Melbourne. Newey's Extreme Gamble, the AMR 26, the technical masterpiece, but it's suffocating the Honda PU. Reports suggest that Newey's ultra tight packaging is causing the I don't know. Well, I can't say that word. Reliability, which the car shows incredible theoretical downforce in high speed corners. The engine issues are severe, but the car is losing seconds on the straights because it cannot deploy energy correctly. Like that's been a huge thing for a bunch of cars, but mostly for Aston Martin with the energy. You know, Fernando Alonso stating out here that the car is terrible. I think they'll get back in pace. I trust Adrian Newey, but that's going to be a huge nightmare for the mechanics and for everyone in Aston Martin. Sainz reveals that Fernando Alonso, that both of the cars are in a complicated situation. Williams were the first car to start producing the 2026 car, you know, new regulations and all that. But Williams, you know, everyone expected them to be in a good position. You know, last year they strung 2 podiums with Williams, which they haven't had in years. Just to be falling off and also being the first car or the first team to start their 2026 car, it sucks. You know, Williams is a good brand, good drivers. They did really good last year, but you know, hopefully they get into the rhythm of things. According to the sources, Williams, that the 20 kg excess weight is an exaggeration. You know, people are saying that they have a lot of weight. You know, people are saying a Red Bull, they had more weight in their cars, but additionally, they expected it to be resolved in a few races, thus quickly remaining the minimum weight. So they're saying the cars are heavier. We'll see about that. Williams' boss accuses Red Bull of games and testing. James Vowles claims that Red Bull deliberately reduced the power unit performance after rivals took note. This heightens the unpredictability and uncertainty ahead of Bahrain season over. Take it with a grain of salt. You don't know exactly where these cars are at in testing, because most, you know, car teams might be not putting their fullest into it. You're trying to play mind games, trying to trick with everybody. But this is a cool thing I saw. F1 makes history at the Australian Grand Prix. Albert Parks, everyone knows who Albert Parks is. Turn 6 is being renamed to honor pioneer female engineers. First time a circuit corner is named for an active woman in the sport. Haas engineer Laura Muller and Red Bull's strategist Hannah Schmitz are celebrated. That's a cool thing to see there. Cadillac has already spent $1 billion even before a race, which is mind blowing. You're spending so much money in this, and it doesn't even count for what's going on. You know, crashes, engine part. F1's such an expensive sport. Potential cultural clashes between American F1 work ethics. Wow, that's gonna be tricky. But the cool thing is, this cool trailer from F1 that they released with, was it from Peterson, the F1 movie? This is a pretty cool trailer. All the drivers talking in it. The season's gonna be really interesting season. No one knows who's who. You know, people are obviously saying Ferrari and McLaren, but still, you don't know who's who. So, and also with F1 moving to Apple TV this year, I mean, yeah, not the best. I mean, ESPN is not really my favorite as well, but yeah, I'd say take Apple TV. You got the MLS bundle with that as well, so you can watch both things. And then obviously Drive to Survive coming out pretty soon. When is it coming out? It doesn't say. Great. I think in a few days, obviously, probably a couple days. But one thing people are saying that is not as drama. You know, they're leaving out a bunch of things, which you want to see. The point of Drive to Survive is the background, like what's happening in the back end, the drama, the fighting, the, you know, how the teams are preparing, you know, how they're, you know, working on things. But it is what it is. But that's pretty much. There's so much news, but you can't really cover everything that's going on with every team. But yeah, this F1 season is gonna be really interesting.